so we do have an update from Meta as well. While they've been a bit away from the news for some time,
They are
I'm
working on
waiting.
Llama 3.
I'm waiting for Llama 3, right? Because Llama
Did you
2
see
to
the
certain,
news? There are leaked news that Llama 3 is performing better than GPT-4 already.
but that's how the
Meta
model
is
actually.
leaking.
I mean, on all fairness, Shiva, after what's happening with Google, I think all this hoopla around, models performing better than X, Y, Z, till the time it's not experimented, it's not, pasted. I do read this news, but I don't believe this news at least, right? And that's the same that I asked viewers. Try it out, experiment, and then come up with the right models. Because Shiva, at least in our perspective, the use cases that we are implementing, we've seen Llama to go down a bit. I think
Yeah,
we've honestly, if you really ask me, we haven't been able to consume Llama 2 in any of our production workloads yet. It's a very
it's
good tool
zero.
for
It's
exactly.
zero actually. Yeah,
It's very good for POCs, etc. Because obviously it's open source, right? Open model, so purely open source. But at least we can consume it to a certain extent, right, for our experiments, but nothing on production, right? So I think, but now what they're actually trying to do is they're also trying to experiment in other areas. And I think edge consumption of these models is the next step, right? Where probably these smaller tasks can actually be done on the edge devices, right, Shiva? So that's what they've done. Actually, they've built a research, right, which actually has tried to come up with a newer model for consumption of these models on the edge device, which they're actually calling as MobileLLM. And as part of this research, there are two models that they've actually released: MobileLLM and MobileLLMS, right, which is a smaller model. But obviously,
got it.
I mean, we've actually spoken or we've discussed edge consumption. Gemini, has their own model which is consumed on the Pro phones, right? But I think what they've tried to highlight, while I've just gone through the paper preliminary, we've not tried these models out yet, but they've now introduced a newer concept, which is generally what happens is when you actually look at these models, you actually look at the weights end to end for these models, right? But what
Yeah,
they've developed is a technique where you do a block-wise, weights understanding and adjustment, which then moves to the next block so that your consumption or the memory that
correct.
is underlying memory required is very limited, right, for these models. But you still get a good accuracy because, you're adjusting the weights per block, not probably at the model level, right? So that's what they're trying to, they've explained in this research. We're yet to try out these models, but definitely a good update, right,
Yeah, I mean
from
it's
Meta.
it's it's in the right direction at least. That's what we could say. It's a sub-billion dollar model, which is sorry, sub-billion dollar
Billion model.
not dollar, sorry, sub-billion tokens model. I always go to dollar, I know why. Sub-billion tokens model.
That's the
Yeah,
entrepreneur mindset, Shiva. Sorry.
yeah, and so this models are good for chat and API calling, which is exactly what you need on your device. You don't need reasoning capabilities, right? You don't want your device to comfort you when you are emotionally unstable. You just want the device to have a better NLP, better than Siri for that matter. If it could be better than Siri, that's fantastic. What else do you need? So yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're in the right direction. Uh, let's see if Llama 3 will come out as a pure play open source, or will it be will they take the Mistral route by launching a hosted version? We'll have to wait and see. But I think you know what, Rishabh, what Mistral did was a masterstroke, and because while Mistral model was available as like other like Hugging Face and Together AI, they were providing these models. The consumption wasn't there still. I mean, you and I, we are seeing, right? Customers are still defaulting to GPT-4. They're saying, hey, if I have to work with an API, I'll rather go to the OEM, the
Yeah.
original provider, right? Which is GPT-4. So Mistral, I think, realized it. The fact that they are now an OEM and launching their own direct API, it's a big blow to all these other folks, which is Together AI, Perplexity API, and all the other players who provide these API, Hugging Face also. Grok, they have an edge because the Grok is ultra super fast output, so Grok is good, but all the other models will definitely get ahead because people would want to use Mistral directly instead of using together and stuff.
See, I think one is accuracy. I totally agree with you, right, Shiva? But I think, and this is something that we propagated in our previous podcast as well as accuracy, but consumability of these models when it comes to enterprise use cases or consumption. Like consumability of the models is very, very critical, right? And again, while we do understand Claude hasn't made a lot of slides, but Shiva, we still use Claude in a lot of our use cases, at least 40% of our use cases, right? Because it's more consumable. right?
Hmm.
I can look at some low-hanging fruits where there's like NLP, normal NLP use cases, right? Cloud performs well. So at least since it's
Hmm.
better consumable, I pick that model up and I probably use it for my customers and use cases, right? So I think accurate, a right balance, and that's where you rightly mentioned it's master stroke from Mistral, right? A right balance between the accuracy and then the consumability of the model. I think that's definitely a key.